Hey y'all, it's me again, the Rock Doctor, coming at you live with my first installment of how to jam a cool solo over any chord progression or over any song. What do you need to know? Okay, so let's start off with the basics here. The first things you need to know. Number one, you need to know the pentatonic shape, the home scale shape. This guy. I'm going to play it in the 5th position just because it goes with my first example. All right. I'm going to play 2 notes on a string. I'm going to start on the low E string and work my way across. I will, let me just play it first and I'll tell you the frets. All right, here it is. All right, that's A minor pentatonic right there. I call that the home scale. It's the one everybody knows. As far as the frets, on the low E string there, I played 5-8. On the A string, I played 5-7. D string, 5-7. G string, 5-7. B string, 5-8. High E string, 5-8. Now, knowing the scale is important, but that's not going to take you to the promised land. We're getting there. We're working on it. You've got to learn some licks, some phrases that are based on the scale. So let's set that aside for a minute. Now let's talk about how to use the scale. Well, how do you know where to put that pentatonic shape within the context of a song so that you sound like you're in key, so that you can sound like you know what you're doing? Well, here it is. Basically, you have to know the chords that you're playing over to the song, and usually the first chord in the sequence of chords in the progression tells you what key it is. So in my first example, take a look at my dry erase board real quick. I've got a chord progression here that I've looped, and it goes A minor to F, E minor to G. Each one is a measure, and these things repeat. So with A minor being the first chord, you line your scale up, see it right here? So that you find the A note on the low E string, 5th fret, and the scale lines up there, and all of our licks line up with that scale in one way or another. I've got 4 essential licks that I cover all the time. I'll make a separate video on how to play them all today to help you out with that. The next thing you need to know, though, is you have to have some licks that come from the scale, and there's a specific way we're going to do this today. We are going to play a few licks here that last for 2 measures. Most chord patterns pair up in 2-measure phrases. You can see right here we've got A minor to F, then we've got E minor to G. Now why is the F red? Because my lick is going to end on a chord tone of F the first time through, and over here the lick is going to end on a chord tone of G. So what I'll do is I'll just play the same lick over both chords. I'll fire up the track, and you can hear what I'm talking about. The first time I'm going to resolve to a chord tone of F. I'll demonstrate that in a minute. The second time I'm going to take the same lick and resolve it to a chord tone of G. Alright, let me slide this out of the way. Alright, let me use this lick to start with. This is what I call essential lick number 2. Everybody plays this, and here it is, listen. Now what's happening here is, first off, there's 2 notes on a beat, and most of the strings have 2 notes on them as well. So here's the lick. I'm going to count the beats this time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. So I played 2 notes on a beat, and if you'll remember, I just said that the chord progression there, the first pair of chords last for 2 measures. So does the lick. And when I ended, that last note was an A note. It's a chord tone of F. If you don't know how to find your chord tones, if you just look at a basic chord, you can find them. Look, here's a cowboy F chord. Sure enough, there's an A note in there. So I ended the lick on a safe note, an A note. Now, if I use the same lick over the E minor to G part, I want to end on a chord tone of G, and I'm going to pick something right now. I'm going to pick a D note. Where your notes are. Well, if you don't know that, you need to work on it or you're in trouble. But knowing that will allow you to steer your licks into the chords so you can start to play solos that sound good. Alright, now let me fire the track up, and I'm just going to play that same lick once for each chord. Here I go. Here's the one that resolves for F. Here's the one that resolves for G. Now, let me do this. Let me fire it up again, and I'm going to play all 4 of my essential licks. They're not really mine over this chord progression. And I'm going to actually resolve the lick based on whatever chord is underneath me at the moment. So you have to know. You have to know what chords are happening. You have to be aware of it, or you're going to just screw up. All right, let me fire it up again, and I'm going to play all 4 essential licks. Here's the first one. Second one. Essential lick 3. Essential lick 4. Let me do it again. Essential lick 1. Resolve to an F. F4 tone. Essential lick 2. Resolve to a G chord. Essential lick 3. Resolve to an F chord. And that's essential lick 4. Resolve to the G. So yeah, you gotta know how to end your licks. Yep. All right, so there's our first section. Now let's do the process again for a different key. Okay, so dry erase board time again. Let's take another chord progression that I've got here. It's one of my backing tracks. This is my backing track in E. I think this is number 1. And what's happening here is I've got another 4-chord pattern. It's E minor to D, and then D back to E minor. It's actually a little flashier than that, but that's the gist of it. And so what you want to do is, again, the first chord of the progression is almost always what key you're in. So I used my that knowledge, and I found an E note on the low E string at the 12th fret to line my scale up first. That scale will sound good over this thing as long as you keep it going, and if you know some licks that fit. And that's what this video is about. So let me pause everything here, and I'm gonna get that video or that track up for you, and we're gonna do that. Okay, I'm gonna fire the track up. Let me play along with it first. Again, we're in the key of E this time. First, I'll play it the way it's written, and then we'll talk about it. Let me pause it for a minute. Now, let me strip that down. That was kind of slick, wasn't it? Let me pare it down into the bare bones. This is what I'm thinking about when I'm playing over it. Here I go. Let me fire it back off again. So what's happening there is I've got a measure. Let me put it back over here with the weight from the erase board. I've got a measure of E minor going to D, and I have a lick for that. Then I have a measure of D going to E minor, and I have a lick for that. I'm going to start out with the same lick. I'll use the essential lick number 2 again. I'll resolve it so that it fits in D. Then I'll resolve it so that it fits in E. So you have to know how to end your licks with this particular style of lick that I'm teaching here. All right, here it goes. And again, I'm up at the 12th fret with my pentatonic scale. This guy. And don't forget, the licks are important. The scale is not going to do you much good. You have to play some licks. The scale just sounds like a scale and doesn't sound very musical. All right, let me fire this thing up. Again, I'm going to play essential lick number 2, and I'm going to resolve it to a D, and then I'm going to, when it comes around again, I'm going to resolve it to an E. Coming right up. Here we go. And then, again. All right, let me talk about that real quick. So, I took the essential lick number 2, and the first time I stopped here, like this. Well, why did I stop there? Because there was a D chord underneath. And look, I ended out a chord tone, a D, and you can see, in my mind, instead of using math, I just used the shape of a D chord to know that there was a D chord tone right there. So, the second time around, I wanted to end on a note that was safe for E, or E minor, and I did this. And that note there, that B string 15th fret, when I bend it up, it's a D note. You push it up, it turned into an E. Now, let me fire the track up again. I'm going to play all 4 essential licks as the chords go by. Essential lick 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. So in each case, I resolved the lick to fit the chord underneath. So, you know, it's not as easy as you think. You really got to know what you're doing. All right, so there's that one. That was the key of E. All right, now let's move on to the key of C sharp. I've got a backing track in C sharp. Dry erase board time. For this example in C sharp minor, take a look. First off, I've got, again, 4 measures. The first 2 measures are C sharp minor to E, and I have a lick for that, and I resolve the lick to a chord tone of D. The second 2 measures, I'm going from B to F sharp, and I have the lick resolving to a chord tone of F sharp. And I'll demonstrate that in a minute. And if you're in the key of C sharp, the first chord being C sharp, I found a C sharp on the low E string. It turns out to be the 9th fret, and you line the scale up there. And that's your point of reference. So all of your licks that are based on that scale tie into this. So knowing where that scale goes is a surefire way to be able to play in key. And that's my logic. I don't use a lot of, esoteric thinking here. I just know what key I'm in. I find the whatever the key is, in this case C sharp minor, I find the root note on the low string. I imagine the scale shape there, and all my licks tie into this shape one way or another. All right. Now let me move this out of the way. Let me fire the track up, and I'll play along with it. Now, let me strip that down. I'm going to play along with it again, and I'm going to strip it down into the basic chords, which is how I really think when I'm playing over this stuff, okay? So in essence, I've got C sharp minor to E. I'm just using power chords, though. And then I've got B to F sharp. So let me fire it up again. Okay, here I go. F sharp. That's all it is. C sharp, D, C, F sharp. All right, now let me apply essential lick number 2 to this thing. So again, I'm going to find, and since I'm in C sharp now, I'm going to find a C sharp on the low E string. 9th fret. My scale's right there, lines up right there, look. And all the licks that I play tie into that scale shape one way or another. Okay, now I'm going to use essential lick number 2 again, and the first time I'm going to resolve it to an E chord tone, and then I'm going to resolve it to an F sharp chord tone, so that's not too bad. All right, let me fire it up. Let it circulate around again. Here I go. my E note. F sharp. Again. Resolve to E. Now I'm going to resolve it to F sharp. So both times there, I just used the same lick just as an example. And the first time I stopped on an E note because there was an E chord underneath it. The second time I stopped on an F sharp note. So like this. There's the E. Then the second time around, I am on F sharp. Pretty simple. Alright, now let me fire it up again and I'll play all 4 essential licks along with this track. One more time, essential lick 1. Resolve to an E chord tone. 2. Resolve to an F sharp chord tone. 3. Resolve to an E chord tone. Number 4. Resolve to an F sharp chord tone. So, it's not that difficult once you know how to steer these licks into the chord that's underneath. It takes a little while to get there, though. You really have to practice it. But after a long period of time, this stuff becomes automatic. All right. Now, let's talk about the final chord progression. This one is a little different. This one is in the key of G major. And so there's a trick here. I'll talk about it first. You can use that same pentatonic shape that we've been using to get a major pentatonic sound, which sounds totally different, even though the shape is the same. So let's talk about that first. Okay, so let's look at the dry erase board again. I've got this great big long ass progression. There's 8 little measures to it, okay? But the primary chord, the main chord, the first chord is G, G major. And G major pentatonic sounds best for this. So how do you turn the shape that we know and love, this pentatonic shape, into G major? Well, let me walk you through it. I'm still going to find the G note on the low E string. That's how I do it. But instead of playing the scale from the G note and moving up, I'm going to move back. Let me just get this out of the way. I'll show you. Okay. So I'm going to use the high G up here. 15, right? Now, if you play from the 15th fret up, you get the lighter pentatonic, which sounds bluesy. But to get the major sound, which sounds kind of happy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reference that G again with my index finger, and I'm going to move back 3 frets. So you do some math in your head or you'll screw up. So you say to yourself, whatever fret you're on, in this case 15, what's 15 minus 3? 12. Move the whole scale back, the whole shape, to 12, and play from there. If some of you are saying, hey, isn't that E minor pentatonic? Yes, but let's not talk about it. Okay, let's just consider this to be G pentatonic. Listen to what it sounds like if I play from G, the low G, to the next G. Listen. It sounds happy. Let me play from the high G down to the next G. It's happy! Yep, major pentatonic. But the shape is the same. Yeah. Erase board time again. Key of G major. Look at the chords this time. I've got 2 measures of G. I have a lick for that. 2 measures of D. A lick for that. 2 measures of A minor. A lick for that. And a measure of C and D at the end. A lick for that. Again, the red letter in each one is what the resolving note I need. A chord tone for G in this case, a chord tone of D in that case, a chord tone of A in that case, and a chord tone of D here. All right. So we'll see what happens here in a minute. First, let me fire it up, and I'll just play the chords. It's very simple. Yeah, G, A minor. Let me take essential lick number 2 again, and I'll play it for each pair of chords. Again, I'll resolve it to the chord tone that's happening at the time. All right. Here I go. First one resolves to G. Next one resolves to D. A next. Then D again. So yeah, you got to know how to resolve your licks to the chords underneath. You can't just play anything and hope it works, because it might not. All right, now let me go through it again, and I'll play all 4 essential licks along with the progression, resolving it to the correct chord as I go. Yeah, so I'm thinking a little bit when I'm playing. But as time goes on, if you really know the song, you really know your set list, you're not thinking at all, you're just reacting to the sound, and you know how to steer your licks the way you need them to go. Yeah, it happens. All right, here we go. Okay, essential lick 1. Number 2. Resolve to D. Next one. Number 1 again. Resolve to a G chord tone. Now, G chord tone there. A chord tone, D chord tone. So, it's going to take some work. So you have to know your licks. You have to know how to reference them and put them in the right spot on the neck. You base the whole thing on knowing what key you're in, which is usually the first chord of the song. So you figure out what the first chord is, the letter name of it, find it on the low E string, line up your scale there, and that gives you the minor pentatonic sound. If you want the major pentatonic sound, you do the same thing, but move the scale back this way 3 frets. Do the math in your head so you don't screw it up. So the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic are the exact same shape. You just have to know what to do with them. All right. So it's me, the Rock Doctor. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, order me a pizza, find me a hot-looking bass player, and you know what? I'm out of here. I love you. Bye.